everybody, and welcome back to another awesome video on music technology. Since the last video we did on the Akai MPC Live, which was obviously primarily focused on studio, how do you take the MPC Live, use it as a drum machine basically inside a digital audio workstation. But we got a lot of requests and a lot of questions around using the MPC in a real live set, okay? So we thought that we'd set up a pretty elaborate setup, which you can see. We got a brand new Allen & Heath PX5 mixer. We've got the MPC itself, of course. And then we've got a laptop running Traktor and a second laptop running Ableton. And tonight we're going to sync these all up and get them all working together. So the first thing is, how does the MPC Live actually sync, okay? The good news is that it has Link built into it. Now, Link is a synchronization protocol designed by Ableton, and it works over Wi-Fi networks. So as long as you have a router in the room, you can connect the MPC, any hardware or software devices, onto a Wi-Fi network if they're Wi-Fi enabled, and then Link is extremely seamless. Okay, so let's just have a look. On the MPC itself, I just go to this little cog over here, I go to sync, and then the very top panel I've got an option to receive, okay? And over here I can choose, do I want to receive MIDI clock, MIDI timecode, and I'm selecting Ableton Link, okay? So Link is active. Now as soon as I select Link, I can actually see that it's linking to Ableton, okay? Over here on the laptop, I've got Ableton open and I've got Link active as well, okay? And in addition to that, on Traktor, on the laptop, I've activated Link. And I can see here it says 2 links, this says 2 links over here, and the laptop says 2 links, so all things are connected, all right, on the Wi-Fi network. That's very important. Now, something that you might run into, that we ran into initially, is when you're feeding the MPC Live into a digital audio workstation, do not monitor. Turn on direct monitoring, because if you don't have direct monitoring, you're going to get latency and it's going to sound like it's out of time. But take it from me, the sync is seamless. You just need to direct monitor. Now, in this case, we've got a hardware mixer, so that's not an issue. But if you do run it into Ableton or Cubase or Logic, make sure to direct monitor on your sound card and not to monitor on the audio input track, because it will sound like a disaster. So let's demonstrate this quickly. Here I've got Traktor, and I've got a loop that just from a track that I downloaded, okay? Let's make sure that sync is on, make sure that Link is on, very important, and launch that loop. In fact, let's launch the MPC first. Okay, so that's the MPC's loop, okay? Press sync. Now I'm gonna, on top of that, launch a loop from Traktor. Okay, perfectly synced. Now where this gets really cool is that machine number 3 actually has Omnisphere. It's on the same Wi-Fi network, and it is also linked, okay? So each of these machines says 2 links. Not only is this playing Omnisphere, but Omnisphere has an arpeggio patch, and I want you to see that even the arpeggio itself is syncing perfectly. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Imagine this in a live context. 3 devices on a Wi-Fi network, perfectly synced, including arpeggiator patterns, sequences, etc. Let's dive a little bit deeper, start recording some audio, and really get our hands dirty. Okay, so we've got sync covered. Now we're going to start looking at extensively sampling using the MPC Live. As I sort of alluded to earlier, I've got this machine running Ableton. Inside Ableton is Omnisphere in this case, but it could be Silent, it could be any soft synth that you like, it could be Contact, it could be anything, okay? The output of that is routed. Now in this case it's a little bit complicated. I'm coming out through a sound card into the mixer and back into the MPC. But the routing is actually relevant. As long as you can get audio from, in this case, the sound card, into the inputs of the MPC, if you can get it in there, you can sample it, okay? The aim here is very simple. I'm going to take a sample from Omnisphere. I'm going to play a 3-chord progression, 1 take, and then I'm going to open up the sample editor, chop, 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 and I'm going to chop those 3 chords onto 3 individual pads, which means I can sort of change the phrasing. Okay, so I'm in the sampler. I just went to the main menu, selected sampler. Now it's waiting for input, so I'm actually seeing this window over here. A quirky feature, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I could imagine it being useful in certain contexts. You have to set a time that you're going to record for, okay? So you'll see the default time length box is actually highlighted, and Q3 will set minutes, and Q4 will set seconds, okay? Look, I probably wouldn't have done it that way. I probably just would have let people record whatever length they want, but it can be useful as well. So I'm going to set a 30-second record time. Let's arm it. It's waiting for signal. We have signal, you can see it coming through on the input. Okay, and let's record. Okay, chord progression, what am I feeling? Let's go E minor, D major, C major, 7. Now something that's obvious, I shouldn't even have to mention it, is that because I had to arm record and then move over there and start playing, there's going to be a little gap at the beginning. There's going to be a little area of silence. And similarly at the end, as I stopped playing and had to move back here, there's going to be some silent space there as well. So in the sample editor, I want to now take control and I want to just cut right onto the first transient. And you can just use your fingers. I showed you this in the first video. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. You can just use your fingers to move your start and end points. But if you are a very anal person and you want to be very precise, Q-Link will alternate between the start position, okay, which you can just change with the first button. And then if you press Q-Link again, you can toggle your end position. So let's just get really precise there. Let's toggle back to the start. And I want to put that right smack bang at the start of that transient, okay? Boom. Now, obviously, I want to make that change permanent inside the audio file. So when I know that I've got the start and end markers very tight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go process over here, and the default function in this processing menu is called discard. Now what discard does is it takes everything on the left and right, so outside of your markers, if it's left of the start marker or right of the end marker, and it just deletes them, and so it writes in the most important parts of the audio file and permanently overwrites, so that that audio file is overwritten permanently. And now you can see as I open up the sample editor, flash bang, that start marker is perfectly connected to the first transient, and the end marker is ending right at the end of the last transient. Cool, so just a quick review. I brought audio in through the audio input. In this case, as I said 1,000 times, I'm playing Omnisphere, but it could be anything. I played a 3-chord progression, or it could be 3 notes, but in this case it's 3 chords, okay? Armed record, played it, then I went into the sample editor. I used the start and end markers, toggling away all the irrelevant data. As soon as I had it cut tight, I said process, I said discard. What that does, takes everything on the left of the left and the right of the end marker, and it deletes it and consolidates the audio file into that neatly cut, tightly cut transient, okay? Following that, I said, why don't we cut these 3 chords or 3 notes into 3 different samples? So in order to do that, you open up the sample editor and you move to the chop mode, you select threshold, and then you toggle that threshold until you find that magic value where it's finding all those transients, but not creating hit points where there is no volume. So you don't want to create extra slices. If you do that neatly, you'll have what I have now, which is 3 perfectly cut slices. Now as soon as you do that, you press shift and then you go convert, and a menu will come up and it'll ask you, do you want to add these samples to a new program, and do you want to assign them to pads inside that program? I said yes to all those options. So now on track 5, if I look at multi-track mode, I've now got this dedicated program, and I've only got 3 samples, but here they are on pad 1, pad 2, and pad 3. Boom. Okay. So I'm just going to play the drum beat. I'm going to use this because I said I've got these 3 chords, E minor, D major, and C major, but I'm not quite sure of the timing that I want to play, and that's where samplers really come in handy, because I can change up the phrasing quite a bit here. So let's do a couple of little options. Okay. So look, I'm going to keep it simple because obviously we're not making a track here. This is just a tutorial video. But let's record that. Very happy with that. Now you may notice that auto quantize is on, for better or worse. If you're a very skilled player, you can leave auto quantize off and you can have your timing manual. If you're playing live, which is what this video is all about, I strongly suggest that you have time correction on, because as you can hear, as you play it, it'll just snap it onto the grid, which is very, very useful. Cool, so I've got these pads split up. I've sequenced them in a way that I actually really like, even though it's a little tad bit cheesy, but I tend to like cheesy pianos in dance music. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a little bit of harmony and a little bit of interest with another instrument. And as I've been explaining, it's really easy to load up an instrument, native MPC live instrument, on another track. And the instruments that it has are really good. They're multi-sample, they're velocity sensitive, and they respond to pitch and mod wheel. So how do we do that? You go to a free track, you go to the sample content browser, you load one of the instrument things into the sample browser, and then on that track you just select that instrument, okay? If you have a look at my multi-track view over here, you'll see that track 2 is loaded with this keys grand piano patch, okay? And as I mentioned earlier, there's a MIDI cable that's coming out of the base station into MIDI in of the MPC. So that means as long as it's highlighted, anything that I play will, any note that I play will come in, and because track 2 is active and track 2 has the piano on, we'll hear that playing. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 layers of this to overdub. And let's do, I just want to turn this one down a little. Cool. And let's overdub. So, channel 2. Firstly, the chords. Okay, so I'm just going to play the same chords in a slightly different voicing, slightly different range. And in order to do that, okay, let's go. Okay, I didn't play the middle chord, only the first and the last, but that actually sounds really cool. Okay, now one more layer and I want to overdub some harmony, same track. Right, fantastic, I'm getting excited now. Before I even do that, I want to show you that the Omnisphere is still loaded, so look at this. Cool, so now you're starting to hear one layer of recorded resampled audio, one layer of native instrument that's sort of layered over it for harmony and melody, a bass coming in from Omni, and then of course this little bad boy loop. Here we go. Okay, let's press stick on this loop. Drop the bass line. Boom, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Cool, it's bass recording time. So I've already showed you how to record a sample. I don't really particularly like the onboard bass patches on the MPC. I'm going to be using an external synth. It could be hardware, it could be software, it doesn't matter as long as it's coming into the input. Once again, I've opened up the sampler, okay? And once again, the most important thing when you open up the sampler, aside from arming, you've got to put it into sample mode. Otherwise it's in pad tap mode. It waits for you to tap a pad before it records. Now that it's in sample mode, let's go ahead and record, okay? So here we go, record and play. Stop. Okay, and once again, as soon as I do that, a prompt will come up if I'm in sample mode and ask me, do I want to save that? Yes, I want to save it. I want to save it as fat bass number 4. Let's do it, and let's put it into program. Let's put it into program 1. Keep. Boom. Okay, so let's stop that. Now, pretty much what I'm going to do is repeat the same thing. Cool, I've taken the bass line, I've deleted all the material on the left and the right, consolidated, imported it into the sample editor, cut it according to threshold, and then I've assigned it. It's beautifully in time, it's beautifully in key, and everything is working. The last thing that I want to show you in this video before we do the advanced one is the channel mixer, okay? The pad mixer lets you control in each pad group you can control the volume of each pad, but the channel mixer lets you control multi-track channels, levels, inserts, etc. Okay, so I go to menu, I select channel mixer. I've actually gone into the piano patch that I played earlier, and I've highlighted it and I've soloed it. Okay, over here I'll see my inserts panel. So I want to show you something. That's what it sounds like dry. Okay, let's turn on the delay, sync. By the way, these delays don't sync automatically, so if you want them delayed, you've got to sync them. And a second delay. Now, as you hear, that sounds fantastic. Really nice and wet. To bring it all together, let's introduce all the other elements. Here's the Traktor loop. Right, back to the MPC, channel mixer. Let's get out of here and let's take this off solo.